Greetings and thank you for joining us at Legends of Tabletop. I really appreciate it. I am Matt here with Leeman. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Leeman Kessler. I'm an actor, and I know Leah through the wonderful world of Lovecraftiana. I'm probably most well known for portraying H.P. Lovecraft, the web series Ask Lovecraft. And it's a pleasure to be here today to talk about a game that has devoured much of my waking life.
Yeah, it's quickly devouring much of mine too. I've got almost 10 hours on record on my Steam for that, and I love Graveyard Keeper. And thank you, Tiny. I think it's Tiny Build has made the game, and I absolutely appreciate the game. It's wonderful. And I'm going to launch it right now. Lazy
There we
Bear
go.
and Tiny Build. Have I shared the screen or not?
It's not showing up here. I don't know if it's going to show up on the rest of the sort of Google chat, but
Oh no, did I lose you?
nope, I'm here.
Oh, okay, you are. Great. Great.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic find. I very rarely sort of scroll down to the bottom of Steam to check out like what's up and coming or trending or things like that. Like usually I find about games just, from reviews or just friends. This was completely just on a whim. I went and poked and saw Graveyard Keeper and thought, oh, that okay. And when I clicked through, saw that it was releasing like 2 days later, I was like, well, I'll keep an eye on this. And then 2 days later, I saw it was dropped, and I thought, I'll get this game. Again, hadn't heard anything about it. All I knew was the trailer and that I'd played a ridiculous amount of Stardew Valley, and it had a very Stardew Valley vibe. And I grabbed it, and boy howdy, like I have lost you said 10 hours. I'm at hour 17, which for someone who's a full-time stay-at-home dad might be a bit irresponsible to confess to. But no, I've been really sort of pumping at it over the last like what is it, 5 days it's been available.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I am so thankful that you managed to post on Facebook what you were up to, because as soon as I saw that, it's like, oh my, I need to play this. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to share the screen at the moment so other people can see what I'm up to. But apparently it's not wanting to work with me today, and that's quite all right. But one of the things that I'm having trouble with, and it's probably due to my own learning curve, is what do you do with those blue gems? How do you get your blue gems?
Okay, yes. So that took forever to find, and it's been interesting, right? Like this game has so many stop points and little like kind of bottlenecks, and that's both frustrating but also like gives you something to work towards. I mean, like at any given point in the game, I have about 100 different things I can pursue, which can be paralyzing because it's like, what do I go shake trees to get more honey so I can make muffins, or do I go and try to like clear out these blockages so I can explore this part of the map, or do I try to go make the bishop happy? Like it is. It's very good at finding the threads of Leeman's brain and like tugging at them, because there's an exploration and unlocking element of it as you like explore more and more of the map, which is ridiculously addictive to me. There's quests from all these different little people, but there's no like counter. Like there's like the time, the way it does time is really fascinating, because something I found frustrating with Stardew Valley is you had the different seasons. And if you didn't do like the specific things you need to do in fall and then winter comes around, well, now you got to wait a year before you can collect the right fish again or whatever you need to do. Whereas in this, the fact that it's on sort of a weekly schedule that repeats is a really fascinating cycle. So you can like you just spend all your time, making like chopping down trees and making firewood. Or you can go and just like mine for like periods of time, but then like, oh, I got to get back because it's Sunday and I've got to go do church.
Yes.
It gives a really nice rhythm to things. But it's frustrating, right? Because like, oh, I want to go like to the merchant and sell the thing. Oh, I can't because he only shows up on like weird Prince Albert piercing day, and like it's trying to figure out all the symbols. I haven't quite got there yet. But or like, oh, I need to go talk to the astrologer. Oops, I walked over and it just like it became night and now he's walking away. Like that stuff is a little frustrating. I do like that the main merchant, the bartender is always there. So you can always go and sell your burial certificates or your
whatever it is.
biscuits. Because I'm trying to think what can I make to sell to make money? Because now I'm at the part of the game where I just need money. Which they tell you in the preview, like this is a game about capitalism, and you've got the donkey yelling at you about being a collaborator with the the capitalist system.
Yes.
And yeah, like I don't know. I like the fact that there's always something you can do, even though you do keep running up against these weird kind of arbitrary brick walls. Like I said, the blue crystals. It took me forever to be like, what are these blue? Like, how do I get the blue crystals? And then realizing, oh, I get the blue crystals by studying. But to study, I got to get faith, so I got to wait until Sunday to get the stuff so I could do like. And now that I'm able to craft certain things, that gives you the blue crystals, like the really higher and complex things, like crafting glass bottles and rope, crafting story. Like when you make a book, that gives you a huge amount of stuff. A big thing for me that I missed, because the Skull Jerry kind of mentioned it as a passing thing about like, oh, don't throw bodies in the river, burn them. I was like trying to figure out where to go to burn them. And finally, I just went to that little southern part of the map and found the place where you can burn bodies and get the burial certificate for it. I didn't realize you would get a burial certificate. I thought it was just a way to like get rid of bodies. So I lost like, I don't know how many, like 5 or 7 silver worth of corpses by just chucking them in the river. Despite also all the environmental impacts. This is a fun game to randomly, like without any context, describe what you're doing on Facebook and have people be like, "What, are you okay, Leeman? Like, why are you talking so much about bodies and harvesting bees?" And so like I really have appreciated.
Yeah.
Well, I need the skin to make paper. Or I could just go hunt bats. That's the other thing, right? Like the kind of the combat mechanics. I mean, if you've played Stardew Valley, there's so much that's similar. Like the combat's very similar. The energy expenditure is similar. The fishing is pretty much the same game. So they've borrowed very liberally from it. But where they've made adjustments and changes, I've appreciated it. I get a little sort of huffy at like all the versions of wood that you have to deal with. Like it's nice. In Stardew, you've got like wood and like special wood. And this is like, you've got your trees and you need your trees in order to get like your billets, and you need the billets in order to get the flitches, to get the planks, or you need them to make the wedges. And I'm just like, what do I need? And
different structures you have to build to figure out which ones go where.
Well, and it's like taking me back to like video gaming in the 90s, where I have to have all these like pieces of paper around me in order to like map out like dungeons and also like map out like the various recipes. And I feel like the Minecraft generation is much better at this. I feel like Minecraft kids understand the idea of like, of course, you write down like all the different like permutations you need. I have to like relearn this. I've been so used to video games like doing that work for me and doing all the note taking for me. And if there's one thing I really do complain about, it's in the tech tree. I love the tech tree. I love the fact that you can be like, I want to do this and move here, and like, oh, I want to be able to like harvest these plants now. But there's no explanation for like, oh, I want to be able to make glass. Awesome. I'm going to learn how to make glass. And you're like, I'm going to make glass. Nope, you can't make glass until you can have this kind of furnace. So you have to like sit and like twiddle your thumbs until you can research that type of furnace. Oh, I can do the furnace. Nope, you can't build the furnace until you are able to, make this kind of paper. And like, that's not explained in the tree, or it doesn't like come naturally in the tree. So you wind up like saving up and getting really excited because, oh, I'm going to get to make candles, but then you can't, because you have to like be able to make rope, and to make rope, you need to be able to access hemp. And so there's a lot of little finicky bits, which I feel like the more I play, and if I were to go back and play again, I would learn all this and sort of remember it better. But in the moment, it makes that like excitement of like, ooh, I'm going to get to be able to make this really cool thing soon. Nope. Not yet. You need to wait for the next Sunday so that you can do more research and get more points. So that, and it's a lot of that kind of return and wait and try something new. And like to some degree, that's fun because I like experimenting. I like the fact that everything you do gives you something, even if it's just like a little bit of green or a little bit of red experience, and that all builds up. but it is a weird game of like play, brick wall. And then you kind of like fiddle at that brick wall until you burst through and you feel great. And then play. And then you kind of hit another brick wall again.
Yes,
so
I see a little Amanda at the corner.
Uh-oh. What's up, little girl?
The TV stopped.
Oh, did the TV stop? Okay. I'll be back. I have to go put the Cinderella ballet back on for her.
Quite all right. And thank you, everyone, for your patience. This is one of the lifelong great commitments that one can choose to do in real life, which is the raising, care, and keeping of another being. I couldn't do it. No, there's no way in hell that I could.
So yeah, it's been an interesting game to kind of run into. I mean, I played a little bit of like the Harvest Moon games and some of the other like kind of farming simulators games, but they were never my like main go-to thing. Until like Stardew Valley ate up, hundreds of hours. And yeah, I don't know, Graveyard, the tongue-in-cheek element of it make it just stand out all the more. It really reminds me of the humor in Dungeons of Dreadmore, which is a fantastic game. Similar kind of like pixely, kind of throwback. It's a roguelike, which has some of that, but the similar humor, similar like weirdness. And I'm excited to see, like, there's so much more. Like, there's a whole town that at some point I unlock.
Yes.
And I'm excited to sort of see how that goes.
Forward to that as well. So, I mean, just getting more of the map and gradually uncovering more of the map. And then you get focused on one thing so tightly, it's like you forget about the existence of the larger picture for the moment.
And that's the problem, is that like, I'll be like, okay, I need to do this. And then like, I'll get distracted. It's so like bad if you have any kind of gaming ADHD. Because like if I could plan it, I could be like, all right, so I'll make sure I have this number of simple tools, and I'll be able to take the simple tools and convert those into complex tools so I can do this. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna mine all the coal so that I have coal for my furnaces, even though I have nothing to go into those furnaces, but I need to have all this coal now. Or I'm gonna make 8,000 muffins. I make so much. I'm at the point where I have so many muffins, just coming out like all my trunks are just filled with the excess muffins that I can't like store in my pockets. And again, the emergent narrative of this game is so ridiculous. Like when you sort of like sit down and think about what you're doing and like how it's all kind of playing out. The weird stuff you have to get for people, the weird things you run across. Like, I'm decorating my basement with skulls. I don't know why I'm decorating my basement with skulls, but the game gave me the option to convert all these skulls I'd been harvesting into like creepy wall and column mounts. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll do that.
Building equipment, why not?
And yeah, there's just a lot of weird fiddly things, and I really enjoy that. I find that kind of strangeness in a game like this very appropriate. Like it's all sort of on brand. The weird puzzle of corpses is challenging. Like the whole the quality of the corpse. You've got like the white skulls and the red skulls, and you want to remove organs in order to have fewer red skulls. But if you remove too many organs, you'll get all red skulls. That I'm not as enjoying, but I reached a point where my graveyard was pretty enough, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to leave it like this. It was very weird when, to make my graveyard better, I had to start taking bodies out of it and replacing it with grass. When I learned how to make lawn and lawn decorations, it's like, okay, no more dead bodies. Dead bodies are and actual graves. I'm just going to turn this into like a little mini park now. It's so strange, and I enjoy that strangeness, and I think I'm very excited to see kind of what comes next. I saw that the company has done other games too. What was it?
Hello Neighbor. I think they did Hello Neighbor.
Oh, okay. Which
that one at all?
No.
Oh, it's a VR game.
Okay.
And I believe they've done Hello Neighbor. It's a VR
Punch Club. Game. Punch Club was the other one that I'd heard they did, which looks kind of like a kick. I guess it's like a weird boxing simulator, like boxing club simulator. That's what Lazy Bear did. Yeah, Hello Neighbor. I don't know at all.
Oh, yeah. Your neighbor is doing some strange things, but don't get caught.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so it's kind of like it's sort of like a Rear Window
Yeah.
game. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Uh,
It looks very classic point and click, like sort of Grim Fandango-y or Psychonauts. It's got the look of that looks very Psychonauts.
ERE, yes. So unfortunately, I have not been able to play Hello Neighbor yet.
No.
As a lack of resources on my end due to an HTC Vive. I don't have an HTC.
Right.
But yeah, with as the technology ages, hopefully the costs will decrease.
Oh, let's hope so.
Yes.
But no, I mean, this has been so interesting. You know, I really appreciate the kind of the throwback to pixely, like, you know, sort of Super NES plus kind of aesthetic.
Absolutely. It almost makes me think that it was built in an RPG Maker / Degica style of creation engine.
Well, and there's a lot of games like that, and they can feel sort of generic and RPG. I mean, that's like the good thing about RPG Maker is that it's allowed people to really practice and explore and do all these cool things. The problem is that there are so many games that just look like RPG Maker games. It's the same issue I have with how there's so many games on Steam have just that very same 2D platformer, like going across the screen sort of mechanic and vibe, and they just again, it allows you to do lots of cool things and like running and jumping and fighting and like, you know, that kind of Ninja Gaiden, just 2D action scroller. There's just so many of them, and there's a sameness that comes across, so that when something is able to stand out, it's really cool. And this really stood out.
Yes.
Like I said, I found out about it 2 days later. I bought it 5 days later. I've like lost my family, you know. And I think that speaks to the quality of the game and how it's able to kind of grip you and keep giving you more and more things.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see once I win, once I achieve some sort of end state, whether it'll be the kind of game I want to go back to and try different things. Like this time, try to do more farming and be more like, see if I can sort of ignore the grave aspect and just kind of like focus on, because again, everything becomes sort of a chore, because literally it's like, oh, I've got to go get my wheat that I've planted, and like, oh, I got to get my beets. Oh man, it took me forever. I got really frustrated because I didn't realize that grapes had to go be planted in a specific vineyard, because I had done, you can build the garden plots with stakes. I thought, oh, this is where the vines and stuff grow, but it wouldn't let me plant them there. And I'm like, but this is where you put.
No, you have to wander up along the edge.
Well, you have to go over into the Witch Hill, and then you have to find this weird area, which again, I saw it on the map. I saw like vineyard. I'm like, oh, okay. Like that was the only thing that clued me in. Oh, that's where I go to get grapes. And now I've got my vineyard all set up and my grapes all going. But again, that leads you down a rabbit hole of like, once you got your grapes, then you need to start learning distilling, and then you need to make wine, and then you like, there's so many of these things you can kind of go down and trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to focus on now? What do I want to do? Like, I just want to make money. So if I really just want to make money, all I should be doing is like planting wheat, harvesting water, and making 8,000 like dinner rolls to sell, because that's like the quickest, cheapest, fastest thing I can create. Because yeah, it does become this weird game of like maximizing your time and trying to figure out how to like make the most of it. But at the same time, I also want to do cool things like explore and go into the dungeon and find, like, I haven't found a single bloody nail yet, and I want to like figure out what's down in the dungeon. And collect more onion seeds, because I only have 2, and you need 4 onion seeds before you can have any onions. It's, again, this game makes you think in very strange ways.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Speaking of strange ways, what is going on strange in your existence right now? Anything that we should be aware of?
Oh, I mean, in my personal existence right now,
Well, yeah, in your creator's world, what's going on with you?
The big thing that I've started up with Ask Lovecraft, because Ask Lovecraft began as kind of a comedy advice show, and now we've branched out and do an interview show, a chat show, which we're calling Ask Lovecraft After Dark, and that's been a lot of fun. We've been able to we've had on game designers like Ken Hite and Scott Glancy. We've had on writers like Molly Tanzer and David Nichol and Sylvia Marina Garcia, filmmakers like Laurie Brewster. Pretty much, I'm just harvesting my social media network to be like, hey guys, want to come on and talk about horror and have a few swears, and it's been an absolute treat. So if folks are interested,
I loved the interview with Adam Scott Glancy. You did that was a fantastically entertaining time.
Well, it's the easiest thing in the world because you just like say, "Hey Scott, what's going on?" and then an hour and a half later, you've got a full interview without having to say anything else.
Oh my goodness, yes. So speaking of Matt, what has been your experience with Graveyard Keepers so far?
It's a bit of a long history because I spotted it on Steam last year when they were just gauging interest, and then I got the alpha, and it's been amazing. Like all the things that were bugging me in the alpha, like quality of life issues, they've addressed in full, and I was just really disappointed that they didn't keep the updates in the alpha going. They went, no, we're going to go for full release, and that's been completely put to rest.
But at least they did address some of those issues that you had with the alpha, correct?
Oh, definitely. Like things like its little features like being able to queue up multiple items, making some of the busy work like a little bit simpler, which I think I almost feel like this is a direct response to Stardew Valley, where they're like, we really love this, but we need to fix these issues. We need to specifically fix what we think is wrong with Stardew Valley and the whole Harvest Moon genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one thing that I did notice with this game is that a lot of those hiccups that you do find with those resource management games that have become quite popular, those issues seem to have been overcome for the most part, and I am just focused on getting the next task done of this specific area that I want to work on instead of, why isn't this working like it should? I mean, everything seems to work rather smoothly for me. It only took a few moments to realize, oh, my stove's not working because I don't have any fuel in there, and just little hiccups like that.
Well, there's not a whole lot of hand holding. There's a lot of things you have to kind of figure out by trial and error, which is really cool. Like that's a really like neat way of like, being able to be very self-motivated to kind of like, re-engineer and tinker with, but it can also be very frustrating when there's some very obvious thing that they either had an NPC mention 3 hours ago that you're sort of like, oh, I'll remember that. Or it just kind of got, lost in the shuffle. And I think, like I said, sort of losing track of where I could go to, incinerate bodies was, that would have been incredibly helpful as I had all these garbage bodies full of surgical monstrosities within them. And there was just nothing to sort of like clue you in, like, remember, you can go to that place and set fire to bodies if you need to.
I think the biggest area that comes into is the alchemy, because
gosh darn.
And they started to implement a bit of that in the alpha where you could do little bits, but it wasn't ready, so they weren't explaining it. I've come to this and now it's huge. And like getting hold of recipes for the for potions and other things is quite intensive. Like you either have to put all the points in to get all of the to get all of the formulas, or you have to go hunting around and then for items and then trying them all out.
Well, it didn't explain anything, right? It just says, put 2 items here and create something. I'm like, what kind of items can I put the like solutions here? No, you can't, because you can only put the solutions in the right like slot. So that like was frustrating at first. I'm like, oh, well, obviously a solution can be mixed. Oh, I guess it can. And then I happened to click on the right slot and saw that the solutions were selectable. So I guess I'm assuming you have to also find powders, but like you can make solutions before you can make powders.
There's loads of ways you can get at those items. I think one of the things, probably one of the only big complaints is like information feedback in certain areas of the game, like you know, the whole being able to access your storage in an area is really helpful. But when I'm like, oh, there was a couple of things I wanted to build in the church basement. Oh, what did I need? I can't be at my storage and check what I need.
Precisely.
I have to write it down. I
Well,
actually,
I was saying that you need just like a notepad or like just like a one of those cork boards with strings of red like thread, like a conspiracy theorist. And it's it's like classic gaming. It's like, old school gaming where an NPC mentioned something and you better write down because that NPC is never going to say it again. And if it really is that kind of old school pre-internet. You can't just go to an FAQ. You've just got. I mean, I'm sure they now have the fact that they launched
that wiki.
There's stuff on the wiki.
They launched that wiki, which was very helpful because there's just a few things that you miss, and so if you don't know, if you don't know what to think, like. I couldn't figure out how to find moths for the longest time because I would see the little like glowing floating things. I knew I had to collect moths, and I leveled up, so I knew I could go and get the moths. But then when I went to like what I thought was obviously moths flying around at night, the little yellow kind of misty things, nope, nothing there. And then finally I had to look up. It's like, no, you harvest flowers at night, and that's how you get a moth. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense. And if I had been harvesting flowers at night, except there's only one flower I really need,
I think they get away with that a little bit. Like it's not as frustrating because of the way. With Stardew Valley, I often found that if I didn't have much to do for a day because I'm waiting for cash to come in, I'd be like, I just want to go back to bed. I don't want to go and make myself busy with this activity I don't want to do. For now, I'll get to, I don't want to go in the mines. I'll wait. Whereas with this, because you can rest anytime, you can do anything at any time, apart from NPCs on certain days, but you can be doing other work at any other time and pursuing any area. It just gives you more freedom. So you might be like, oh, well, it's not nighttime anymore, so I'll go grab some butterflies, or I'll go grab some honey, or I'll go grab some resources from here. And you can keep switching out what you're doing. Whereas with Stardew Valley, they're like, no, you need to be here to collect your crops, and you need to go do this, and you need to go do this, and drop these things off. Whereas the only time you need to do anything at certain times is opening up the dungeon sort of quest line with Snake in the basement, and then going to NPCs to maybe drop them off items. And since they introduced the teleport stone, it's made it so much.
Oh man, when I got that stone, I was so like the fact that it takes you between your house and the store was amazing. I really wish it could also go to the little like secret house, but I guess that's why it's the secret house.
What is that? The
one by the mine?
The
quarry. Yeah, setting that up.
The quarry.
Yeah, the one that's across the river. And that was all like that whole adventure of like realizing I could sort of go around the whole thing as opposed to making a bridge. Like that was again, that really rewarded that sense of like, I'm just going to go exploring. I'm not going to go make anything. I'm just going to see where this edge of the river leads. And if it goes somewhere cool,
you don't feel punished. Like you're not constantly pursuing a goal. Like finding something out like that is valuable. And you don't have to bring a lot of resources to go like, oh, I'm gonna fix this up. It doesn't go, you need 50 wood and 30 stone and 50 nails. It just goes, here, have a little bit. Everything is really reasonably priced. So if you have it with you, you can easily do it then. If you don't need to carry loads of items to then unlock that little bit. And it you can, with the quarry, it's like, you need to set up a few things, but it's very cheap and ends up becoming really useful. I overuse the quarry. What I tend to do is go up there, and just get about 150 iron and some coal, come back and go, right, I haven't got to think about iron for weeks. I'm fine.
Well, it's the same thing with cooking, right? It's like, all right, going to make 8,000 muffins. Bye.
It's really good that you can do that. That's something I thought was, I like the whole seasonal part of Stardew Valley, and I think it's an integral part of how it works, because that's what keeps the variety going. But because there isn't that restriction in Graveyard Keeper, you can just do stuff like that. I've taken care of iron. Like I spend 10 minutes doing the quarrying, and then I don't have to think about that for a while. I can be focused on other tasks rather than
Stardew. It felt like if you didn't do things on a daily level, it would punish you, right? If you didn't water the plants, it punished you. If you didn't go and like pet the pigs, it would punish you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you have to do every day. Like your carrots will sit there for months if you don't if you don't pick them. But like it's not you're just missing out on the opportunity for more carrots. It's not like, oh, the only thing you sort of I feel you have to do is church every week. Which
and I think that's really simple. It's much simpler. It's a shame. I mean, I think there's something they may add, but like it's a shame that the sermons aren't a little bit more. I thought there's going to be a little bit more references and jokes in there, but it's always our church is great. And like,
I thought with the different sermons you would get that too.
I was hoping he was going to make loads of nerd reference, and they'd be blown away, and you'd be going, "That's Star Trek, mate. That's
well, and what I would also love is I would love a merchant who will buy anything you have made. Like that's the other thing I find frustrating, right? Like, oh, I'll make these cakes and I'll make this cool thing. And then I'll go to the merchant. He's like, nope, I am only interested in, muffins and bread. And you're like, really? But I made this cool like slime monster dessert. Don't you want to eat that? Nope. Okay. And I feel like different guys will buy different things, but that means I have to run around to every single merchant with every permutation of items in my, that I potentially could have access to and see like, will you buy this? Will you buy this? And like make notes of that. And that's not terrible, but it's also a little frustrating, right?
Yeah, what I found early on is because there was a bit of a problem in the alpha in that once you multiplied once you got your graveyard to a certain standard, you got your church to a certain standard. That multiplied your cash. I think they hadn't got the balance right because I was making silly amounts of money, but no one would buy anything. So around you, I kind of figured out early on that you should just basically go get yourself lots of iron, refine it into nails and parts, and then just sell them to the blacksmith. Once you can get the cauldron to do that alchemy questline, the witch in the swamp. Yeah, but also because that's the most profitable thing you can do. And I think
interesting. Selling nails. Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
It's a good. That's my pro tip. Just get the quarry ready. Go get yourself loads of iron and then sell it to the blacksmith early on because you'll run out of money so quickly. Money just.
Well, I was like, I've saved up. I felt really great. I was like, I was doing really well and moving along. And then I had to go buy a new whetstone and that emptied me out.
10 silver. Or to do things like, how far are you guys along? Because I've unlocked the big church and I'm nearly at the cathedral now.
No, I've just opened up the western half of my graveyard.
I'm still doing that.
I've still unlocked. Because I don't want to help the Inquisitor too much. So I gave him his firewood, but I didn't give him the flyers. Because I don't want to be responsible for a lot of dead people.
Yeah, Jerry had a go at me for helping too much. Because I gave him both the flyers and the firewood. And Jerry's like, you're with them. No.
Yeah, precisely. Although Jerry hasn't given me a quest in like 97 days. So like, screw him. I was telling Leah, like there's 800 things you can be doing at any given moment. Yeah. So I feel like I have that choice paralysis of like, I should be making my church prettier, but I should also kind of be like getting more honey. And I need to collect 20 bees and I'm only at 4 of my 20 bees. Like I'm obsessed with, like it makes you be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go to church. Good. It's Sunday. I can go to church. So yeah, I think at this point I'm trying to build up the quarry. I'm slowly exploring the dungeon, which is all right. Like, I mean, I feel like it was more this dungeon delving in Stardew Valley was more dynamic and more interesting.
There was more reward for it because you specifically could go in there for things that you could get elsewhere, but not.
Yeah,
always. There's stuff in there you can't get elsewhere.
And yeah, so there's sort of bits like, but I mean, it's still a thing, and I'm interested in exploring that and seeing where that goes. But yeah, it's very, it's very curious in the way, and I need money, right? That's the next thing I need to get the next like church development. I need 20 silver, and I'm far away from that because I only make so many muffins.
Just stick on a podcast for half hour, like maybe a podcast like this for half hour, and just like I'm literally grab about 30 pieces of iron, like the slabs.
Yeah.
I do not have food with me. I do not grind that into iron, take it back home, teleport.
The fact that you can sleep there is so amazing. I'm so happy. Well, because this is the same issue I had with Stardew Valley, but it's better in this. The fact that you can only save when you're sleeping. You could just like go and sleep for, like a minute after you've woken up. So that's slightly better than Stardew Valley, but it's still frustrating as a dad. I'm like, I have to be able to like stop a game and like run off if like my kid starts crying. So
or the dog, is that your dog, Leeman?
that is my dog who is
Oh.
barking at a squirrel
That's
outside. I have no doubt.
Oh, okay.
Keeping needs. We need a dog.
But yeah, that like an inability to just do a quick save, quick exit is frustrating, but it's at least better in this than in Stardew Valley, where I've essentially stopped playing Stardew Valley because I find that so frustrating that like I have
to your 15-minute stretch, and sometimes you're like, I only wanted to do this little bit of the day, and then I'll come back and do the more tedious thing later. But you can't do that. Whereas with this, you can go, you know what, I'm going to sleep. And I love the way that because of your energy levels, you can use sleep to speed up processes as well, rather than waiting so much like you would do in Stardew. It's like, well, can't do anything for 2 days, whereas with this, you can find something to do.
Well, and it's giving you experience. It's giving you just more of your resources. Like there's nothing that wastes your time aside from just sitting around, right? Like there's always something you're getting, and the way the like leveling up and the buying technologies eats through your experience is such that like I'll be like, oh man, I've got like 800 red, like oh I'm wasting my time, and then like I'll take 2 technologies and that'll go away, and I'll be like, oh well, I'm glad I had all that red.
Yeah, I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through the tech tree now. I've unlocked a few full trees. Yeah, I've played a bit much of this since it came out. As soon as I was like, "Where's my key? Where's my key?"
Okay, so I'm very interested in how this changed from the alpha. You mentioned like a couple of little tweaks, but I mean, is it noticeable? Is it noticeably different at this point? Did they sort of like explode it? Expand it?
Yeah, I think the furthest you could get in the alpha was you could get the big church, but you kind of had to really push the limits of things. It was so tedious, like getting the fish for the
for the bishop guy. Oh, yeah, that was annoying.
Was to keep buying and selling rods to the fishing guy so you could finally buy the fish. I mean, that was in the alpha, but that was because the content wasn't added. All the little shortcuts where you can, like the little stone, like the little bridges and things like that, you can unlock by just like chopping through them and throwing a couple of resources at. They weren't there.
Okay.
But most of the map was there. You couldn't go to town. Which I still haven't done actually.
I haven't done that.
It's really weird because you can move in such a you can progress in such a non-linear way. Like the fact I've got this far, I've almost got the western part of the church, and almost got the cathedral, yet I haven't even been to town. There are quests I've gotten right at the start I still haven't done.
It's like Skyrim or Fallout, right? Like, there's sort of this main plot you can see, but it's like, I kind of just want to, work on my house over here. And I kind of want to just make 8,000 muffins and maybe go help a witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's strange that there's loads of quests that you can just ignore. I mean, there's one thing that I'm really hoping doesn't play out the way it did in the alpha is if you do a few more of Jerry's missions, and there's the writer in the tavern.
Yes.
They both give you stories. But I think that's because if you for some reason didn't take the story technology from, that you discover stories by randomly, that you would still be able to access them later. Because otherwise if you didn't take it really early on, you're going to miss out on loads of random rewards as stories.
Interesting.
Gathering.
I see. Because you can't collect it. I see.
I'm hoping they don't do that with too many of the NPCs, where it's like, yeah, I know that I know I can get stories, but is that all I'm getting from this NPC? Is like a couple of quests and then a resource sink for another resource I can exchange.
Okay.
The multiple directions, the multiple paths you can take to get resources is very nice, given the fact that there are so many of these like kind of bottlenecks and roadblocks in the way. Like I can harvest flesh to make paper, or I could just go and kill a bunch of bats at night and make paper. Like I haven't found a workaround for human fat yet. I think there's only one way to get fat.
I'm so glad they give you burial certificates for cremating corpses.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't make any sense, but I don't care. It's like, thank goodness, because one of the limits of the alpha was that you had to dump the bodies in the river. Now, I think there was going to be a punishment for it, but they never implemented it. So it was like,
that's what I was. I keep waiting for that because I dumped so many bodies.
Yeah, but like it's easier to curate your graveyard now with better quality bodies, even without the embalming stuff, which I still haven't touched because of my hoarding mentality. I want to build up tons of resources, so I can't make 2 potions and then go, oh wait, I can't make any more of these. I'm going to have to go off and spend half an hour getting more resources.
Again, the alchemy stuff is sort of the least explained, and therefore I like a bit more frustrating. And I'm someone who wants to try to make the thing as opposed to have to go out and buy it. So I was like, oh, I want to make ink. Oh, I can't make ink because I need black paint, and there's no explanation for how to make black paint. I assume it's alchemical. But
that's an area I'm about to push on with, because I want to find out more on what was like, how they were supposed to flag all this for you, because at the moment the only thing you can really do is you get the embalming recipes, and then the step between making them though is like a few different flasks and whatnot, and it's like, oh, I don't know how to make this other than through trial and error or giving in and going to the wiki, which I haven't done yet, but the temptation is there. I'd rather do a few missions for the witch, or maybe do a little bit more for the astrologer. Once I get into town, maybe I'll get some recipes from there.
But it would be nice if the quest. It would be nice if the quest timed a bit more with what you're doing, right? Like, I mean, the Inquisitor demands a flyer, and the amount of technology you require to make a flyer is really high, because you don't know what you're doing, right? Like, I didn't realize essentially all I needed was, to buy the tech up to it, and then essentially get ink and quill from the astrologer and paper, right? Like, there's no explanation for that. So I'm like, it looks like I'm going to have hours and hours and hours before I can do this one extra thing.
If you're a player that wants to build it rather than go buy the things, it's like, oh yeah, I could buy it from the thing, but I want to learn to make black ink. They put a lot of steps in between, and it feels cheap to then go and buy it. But at the same time, if you want to do it the more manual way, they put a lot more steps in between you and the quest, and I think that's why it's been easy for me to just ignore so many quests, is because they, like you say, unless you incidentally come across things like the bees and whatnot, or the moths or the butterflies, unless you come across them in what you're already doing, it'll be a while before you fulfill the conditions, and then by that point you've forgotten that you have a quest to hand in.
Yeah. It feels like the quest could have been a way to teach the game, essentially, like teach sort of things incrementally. The astrologer wants you to make acid. Well, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff you have to do before you can make acid. But if he had wanted smaller, like alchemical things, or been like, I need you to, bring me these solutions, that would have made you go, oh, how do I make a solution? Oh, I do that. Oh, okay, I've got the thing that the dude wants. I'll go take it to him right now. Like that. I feel like that could have been a way to create a kind of treadmill of trial and error and experiment, plus sort of a goal with a quest that takes you further along.
Checkpoints along it, because it wouldn't be so bad to do the trial and error if there was just a few more checkpoints along the way that allowed you to go, oh, I've learned this bit, I'm going to get a small reward for it.
Yeah.
And especially, again, going back to like money, it's especially in the early game, you're so focused on getting food and getting basic resources.
Yes.
And paying off the donkey.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That was something that wasn't in the alpha, and it absolutely cracked me up, because he made the joke about only getting paid 5 carats a day by some capitalist, and then he poops on your path, and I'm like, dude, what? I just got here. What are you doing?
Yes.
The frustration the keeper demonstrates at not knowing what's happening and being really confused is very nicely modeled on you, the player.
That's quite. I like the story and tone, and I think it fixes another problem with Stardew Valley. Is you're just on a timer, you're on your calendar, and when you get to about maybe the end of the second year, maybe the third year, a lot of players, like I know, have not actually got round to completing Stardew Valley because they lose their sense of purpose by that point.
Well, and if you miss something. If you miss something that's supposed to happen in the fall, and you have to wait a whole other year before you can collect the fish and take it to the town hall center and collect the magic,
I can run that now. I can do it in a year, and by the second summer, I can complete the whole thing. But it's like, I've planned to be able to do all that. That's like having played it times. You don't get that in Graveyard Keep. It's like you miss a guy, and you're like, oh, I'll just do that next week.
Yeah. I'll just go grind out some gravestones, which is going to make my day be 5 seconds long.
Yes. I mean, that takes so much energy to do the gravestones.
It's one of the best. I think that's another thing about like the research is it's very hard to get onto the blue tree early on, the blue points early on. And some of the rewards for the things you build. Sometimes, like some of the gravestones, like the higher gravestones, I'm about to start making marble ones. I just need a few more blue points. But it's like, oh, I'll make this. No, wait, that only gives me 1 point of each. Yeah, it costs like 45 energy. Then you'll make something else.
Well, I
and
mean,
it's like,
that's
that
why
cost 20 and it gave me 3 points each.
Time for the first third of the game, I just slept. I'd do something, then sleep.
Yeah, our Stardew Valley had that problem, and a lot of people, I'm worried that people will have the same issue, maybe to a lesser degree because of how this is designed, but the same issue with Graveyard Keeper as they did with Stardew. The amount of players that saw that's like, well, for the first week I couldn't do anything because I kept running out of energy, and it doesn't make getting food better. And I saw this on the forums during the alpha. Things like making a sandwich. Sandwiches give you 17 energy, yet bread gives you 12. So, but you don't get like loads of sandwiches. Meat is kind of a rare, not rare, but not the most stable source of ingredients.
Yes.
But everything else is locked off. The amount of recipes that I weren't locked in the alpha but are now, I was like, oh, right, I have to pay 5 silver to get this recipe. That's quite a lot of money in the early game, but you need the food more than you need the money at that point in the game. So I think there's a little bit of balancing to do, because things like, a sandwich being 17 energy, bread is 12, but you need bread and meat, which meat gives you 12. It's like, where did you get this balance from?
Well, and the buffs are nice, right? I mean, they're a nice way of being like, okay, here's this thing. Yes, it doesn't give you a ridiculous amount more stuff, but it means that you get more points when you do research, or it means that you're able to fish a little better. Like, that was a clever workaround for it, because like, I'm just literally shoving muffins in my face because it's a fairly simple thing to do. Yeah, and I'm already out there trying to like steal bees. So, I'm going to have the honey.
Yeah, like I think it's the same for going to town as well. Some of the resources, the way they replenish, it takes a full week to replenish them. Things like buying eggs and milk that you can't produce yourself, which I'm kind of glad of, because the animal part of Stardew Valley drove me insane, and I don't want more constant busy work like that, which I think they've reduced in this. But
but also that's a whole part of the game that you don't do, though, right? Like, I did eggs and milk once and like made my special thing, but I'm like, that's such a pain and it's such a resource cost, and why would I keep doing that?
I think that's something that just needs tweaking. Not even a major overhaul, just a little digit, little values tweaking to get that more on.
Well, again, if there were more quests and things, and like it's someone's birthday and they need like this kind of cake, like, things like that, where you can maybe play around with it a bit more, or people will pay you. You find out that one person will pay you ridiculous amounts for cake, so like, oh, like, here's my reason for doing this. But then you get things where like you have 2 separate quests that are just to get fish fillets, but slightly different fish fillets. I'm like, why this? Like, you've already taught me the fishing mechanic. Why do you have these 2 quests doing kind of the same thing, but worse? I don't know. Like, these are fiddly things. As a whole, like I said, I have lost myself in this game. It has been incredibly rewarding.
I was worried the alpha had burned me out, but just the thing, it's such a simple thing, but just the ability to queue things up on its own and then not keep going into the interface and messing around, particularly when you need a lot of something, it just made the game so much more streamlined. And it's like,
I haven't figured that out. How do you're able to like queue up different things so you can like make a whole bunch of simple tools and then program it to make more complex tools after that?
No, like, I mean, you still have to like do each step of like doing the stone, then turning the stone into what have you, but if the fact that you could do like 8 at a time, I would gather like hundreds of firewood, because I didn't want to keep spinning plates. I thought, right, I'll just dump loads of firewood. That's my problem sorted for weeks and weeks in game. But I'd have to click them individually. I'd have to and I'd be like like that. Whereas now I can just click it a load of times and dump all the firewood into something. Those little sliders, the little like left and right. The only thing I'm really hoping they introduce is when you're doing recipes like things like the soups, where you can have different quality ingredients, you can only do those one at a time, and that's driving me insane, because I've got more than enough resources to queue up like 100 cabbage soups and leave them there, and I want to be able to do that. I think that's just an oversight, like maybe something they've not updated yet. Maybe they'll get.
Here's a question. Now you've played a bit longer. Does your personal inventory ever get bigger? Are you able to essentially do the Stardew Valley thing of buying a better backpack?
Not that I've discovered, but I'm hoping it's in town. It's just
Good.
I really need to go into the dungeon and get the town pass.
And
I mean,
of course, that carrot's dangled just out of reach.
Yeah, never
well,
feels
there is
frustrating
this,
though.
I mean, this game is kind of backpack quest, sort of like Diablo. Like I do spend so much time doing fiddly inventory management, which you also do in Stardew, and you do in lots of these kind of games.
The whole if you're in the same vicinity as your chests that you're working in, it's like, how is this not the absolute industry standard for any kind of creative game?
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. That was, especially in the lab, especially in your cellar, when you get the because I love the fact that you can build both a bookshelf and a scroll shelf and the recipe rack, and you can put whatever you want on any of them, but it just makes sort of mentally organizing so much nicer.
Yeah. I mean, one of the first things I do in the building area is I try and get the area extended, and then I put a few chests down, and one is wood and sort of parts, one is stone and chisels, and then the other one is metal and like nails and things, and I put all those in. And then the chest by the door, I keep like quest items and random things that I'm going to need to give to NPCs.
Yeah.
So when I'm like, oh, I'm going to go see the so-and-so today, I step out my front door, grab the quest item, and then go off. So it does require you to be a little bit vigilant about your not keeping stuff in your inventory. Like, I only use picks at the quarry, so I don't keep my pick on me. I drop it at the chest at the quarry.
Oh, that's smart.
And that was a game changer for me, because I was like carrying stuff around, and I'm like, well, what?
Yeah.
I don't need this here. Like, if you're not going into the dungeon, don't keep your armor and your sword on you, because
I thought about that, except if I want to do stuff at night and then like suddenly bats are all up on me like that, I realized I did need to have my sword because I didn't know when I was going to be out and about collecting honey and things like that.
Yeah, although you can kind of get, like, for me, like, what annoyed me about that was like, I want to get to the quarry, I can go that way, but you can just walk around it and still go there.
Yeah.
But usually I just don't bother with collecting stuff at night that's dangerous. But I mean, if it's not a huge thing, but I think you need to learn to drop things off that you're not using. It just, again, it's another one of those things, it doesn't really tell you. And if there's no expanded inventory, I'm really hoping just like a satchel, just
that's right. Well, I'm very excited. The size of the game really impresses me, and I'm very excited to see where it goes and kind of how it keeps playing, and eventually, if it ends, how it ends. You don't have the standard. You got to get married, and you've got to, win the or pay off the farm. It doesn't have one of those kind of end game points. So I'm very curious to see how the strangely science fictional take kind of, because that opening sequence is so bizarre.
It is. Oh my goodness. I ended up wailing just a little bit. I'm like, oh no! And my husband was downstairs and he heard me because it just seemed so him. Like the very opening play out where he would be playing on his phone and walk into traffic.
Yeah, it kind of, it very quickly goes from, like, although you have your objective of get home, I think it does a really good job of getting you like lost in the world rather than actually caring about your real life anymore, because you suddenly you do become involved in the town. And like, I really instantly like the bishop, because he's just so he's a narcissist, but he's a friendly narcissist. So he gets away with being like whipping out his mirror and preening his hair, and because he's nice to you. He's like, yes, I'm fabulous, but it's okay, you're nice. Like, a nice anchor for you for the game. It's like, I can always depend on this guy. I can always, you try telling the merchant that you're from another world, and he goes on about how he's not. He's this is too lower class for me, and you're like, oh god, no one understands what's going on here. I just want to go home.
Well, thank you for having us on to talk about this. This has been consuming my life, so I'm glad I have an outlet, because my wife is certainly not interested.
Similar too. Like, I'm just sitting and listening to you both, and it's like, okay, I'm learning different methodologies here. This is going to be great. So I can't wait to go back to the game and apply the things that I've heard you both talk about, because I mean, even though I do have several hours on record, some of that was like running down and doing laundry and making sure
This is a great game for like, I'm just going to put on like Netflix and, binge watch, Samurai Gourmet while running around collecting my maggots and going fishing and making sure that I've got my butterflies.
It's very soothing that you can just, you can get on, you can do a little bit and then you can switch off. Like it's a nice game that you don't feel like you could do half hour or you could do 6 hours. It's good for that.
The problem is that
well, and if you play it right before bed, you're stuck like lying in bed with your like eyes closed, seeing inventory screens, being like, "Oh, I really need to go like make those 16 simple tools. Maybe if I just sneak out of bed, I can go just those. That's all I'm gonna do. Make those 16 simple tools.
I need 2 wooden beams. That's all I need.
Oh, I made a flitch and I need a plank. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. So, now, Leeman, we started talking about what you had been up to, but Matt, what have you been up to lately? What projects you have coming up?
It's not something I can show anything of yet because I'm just going through like the pre-alpha stages, but I'm doing a demake of Stalker.
Oh.
So it's going to be, I'm going to do it as a top-down twin stick 8-directional shooter. It's kind of a bit like Retro City Rampage in terms of like the gameplay, but obviously it's Stalker, so it's going to feel different.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm hoping that's going to come out all right. I think I can transpose it somehow. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's my main project at the moment. It's called I'm calling it Zona, which is the Russian for zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yay for Pripyat.
Yep.
Yes. Awesome. And Leeman, the Ask Lovecraft After Dark. I'm looking forward to when can we expect the next episode and who will be on?
So I just booked my next guest. Folks can find out more information by going to this place is actually Facebook. You can go to the Ask Lovecraft Appreciation Society, a fine group of attractive, discerning individuals. They get first shot at watching the show, the interviews live, and then they get released on the weekend. We do it every other week. Like I said, we just did Scott Glancy of Delta Green, and then in about a week and a half, we're going to have Cody Goodfellow, who is a writer and an actor, and he created the Baby Got Bass.
Lovecraft. And you did the opening spot for it.
I did the oh my God, look at her butt equivalent, but with H.P. Lovecraft. So we're going to have him on. He's going to talk. Yes. He's going to be talking about his sort of strange existence. We're going to have a good time. But yeah, folks can find out more at asklovecraft.com, find out about kind of live shows and what's happening in my neck of the woods at LeemanKessler.com, or you can follow me on Twitter where I scream into the void every day at Leeman Kessler.
Excellent. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow, folks. I will be interviewing Paul Tremblay, author Paul Tremblay. And I am very excited and I look forward to that. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you when we see you. Have a wonderful evening, folks.